Hello everyone and welcome to the VISTA Sponsor Orientation webinar. Today's session is the first glimpse of all the information, resources, and details that you need to understand and carry out your new role as VISTA Project Director. It's also an important starting point to get you situated in the world of AmeriCorps VISTA. We're very happy to have you with us today, and you'll hear from two CNCS staff members throughout the presentation. My name is Eric Powell, and I'm an AmeriCorps VISTA training specialist at the Corporation for National and Community Service located in Washington, D.C. And yes, the cherry blossoms are blooming. I served as a VISTA member in 2006 and as a VISTA leader in 2008, and I'm very happy that my 2 great years of national service have led me to my position now, and I'm assuming many of you on this call have also done national service. So feel free to post that in the chat panel now just so we can get a feel for if you've done national or international service with Peace Corps.
Hi, everyone. My name is Emily Poore, and I'm a portfolio manager in the Northeast Regional Office of the Corporation for National and Community Service. I'm located in Concord, New Hampshire, and I served in an AmeriCorps State and National program back in 2002, where I did environmental education with the Conservation Corps. Throughout our presentation, we'll be joined by a few other CNCS state or regional office staff, as well as some VISTA colleagues who will be assisting us in the chat panel and working together to provide you with essential information and answer your questions.
So now that you know a little bit about us, let's learn a little bit about who's with us today, because this may help you make connections with people geographically near you or who are working at similar organizations. So go ahead now and type your answers to these questions in the chat panel. What's the name of your organization? Where are you located? And you can feel free to just type in your city and state. And then what's your favorite thing to do in the spring? As you type, we'll go ahead and answer these questions as well. You already know that Emily and I both work for CNCS, and you know where we're located. Right now, I'd say my favorite springtime activity is probably walking around and taking really close-up pictures of flowers. I don't know why, I wish I was a botanist, but I love flowers and how beautiful they are. Emily, what about you?
Nice. Well, Eric, we just had a late spring snowstorm here in New Hampshire, so I'm looking forward to the days when it's warm enough to sit on my deck in the sun with a good book.
Ooh, that actually sounds really good. Maybe I'll switch my answer to yours and we can have like our own little book club. So I see quite a few responses coming in. People in Georgia and California, hopefully it's sunny there, Alabama. Some people love hiking and fishing. A lot of people love hiking. You guys could start your own hiking club. Riding a bike, walking outside, ooh, eating in all the green veggies. That sounds delicious.
Yum.
So it's clear that there's a lot of people from all around the country, and keep those comments coming because, again, you may be able to make connections with each other and share resources or ideas, or maybe you are in an organization right down the street from someone. So thank you for that short activity. Emily and I will go ahead and continue with our introductory comments and provide context to the audience for this webinar and the purpose of why we're here today.
Thanks, Eric. While this information is most relevant for VISTA project directors, we have designed this session so that everyone involved in the management and oversight of the VISTA project will gain valuable knowledge from reviewing the content. We recommend that VISTA project directors, project and site supervisors, and authorized representatives all review this content so your organization is well prepared to manage a VISTA program. In our development, we are assuming that you're relatively new or even brand new to VISTA. In developing today's presentation, we're assuming that you've taken a look at a number of materials ahead of time. These include the VISTA 101 and 201, which are stored on the VISTA campus and are part of the entire VISTA sponsor orientation. As you may have seen on the VISTA sponsor orientation materials page of the VISTA campus, the VISTA sponsor orientation encompasses more than just this webinar, so please go back and reference that website for more information. To get a quick idea of where you are with these two courses, VISTA 101 and 201, you'll see a quick anonymous poll open up on your screen. Please select yes if you've completed both courses, no if you haven't gotten to them yet, or in progress if you've started but haven't finished yet. You likely would have been made aware of these courses on the VISTA sponsor orientation materials page of the VISTA campus or through communications from your CNCS state or regional office. We create resources like these courses and more to best prepare you for being a VISTA sponsor. And these VISTA 101 and 201 courses are just the beginning, as you review other important resources such as the VISTA Sponsor Handbook, the VISTA Resource Guide, and additional information on the VISTA campus. There's a lot of information available, much to learn and a lot to do, so it's important to us to give you access to what you may need while in your role. It's also essential for you to know that you do not have to develop everything from scratch, as numerous supervisors have templates, tools, and useful tips to share based on their experience. This is one more reason why we strongly encourage you to utilize the Supervisor Cafe in the VISTA Campus Discussion Forum. Create discussion topics there, respond to other postings, ask questions, share ideas and suggestions, and connect with other sponsors and supervisors.
Great.
So we'll close the poll now.
Thank you, Emily. And looking at the results, it looks like just under half of you have not yet completed it. 28% of you said yes, you have already completed it, which is great. That gives you a strong foundation to becoming a VISTA sponsor. And the other 24% of you that responded are currently in progress, meaning you've either started 101 and have not yet completed 201, or maybe there's just a lot going on, and we certainly understand. So I will say, if you have not yet completed these courses, if you do have time and can squeeze it into your schedule, it doesn't take too long, and we think that it's in your best interest to complete them as soon as possible so that you really understand what you need to know as a VISTA sponsor to get started. Because the more prepared and knowledgeable you are about the VISTA program, the better that you can support your project and your members. So let's take a look at what we're going to cover in today's presentation. Here's today's agenda. We're going to focus on key pieces that will give you the initial information that you need to ensure your success as a VISTA project. We'll start with where to start, giving you resources and people that can help you get your bearings in the world of AmeriCorps. In the big picture, we'll provide an overview of CNCS, including the structure of national service, CNCS programs, our chain of communication, and the core principles of VISTA. In looking at your core responsibilities, we'll highlight what those are relating to VISTA member support and project management, as well as important governing documents for our work together. We'll then provide you some keys to success, including tips, training, tools, and resources that are available, as well as a sense of what success looks like with the VISTA program. Next, we'll provide you some action steps that you can take on your learning path. We'll then wrap up, closing out our session today, and finally answer quite a few of your questions. In the chat panel of today's webinar, you can access a link to download an optional one-page acronym list key. This list contains commonly used acronyms that you will hear during this webinar and beyond, and the file is in Microsoft Word format so that you can add to the list, because you will likely hear or utilize many other acronyms throughout your time as a VISTA project. There are a few obvious acronyms, and we hope all of you, at least at the bare minimum, know what the acronym VISTA stands for. If not, I encourage you to get that answer immediately today. But there's also a few acronyms that only the seasoned VISTA project sponsors will know. Remember, you can keep this document accessible as you get to know CNCS structure, our staff, and the VISTA project requirements. And even though most of these acronyms pertain to the work of supervisors and sponsors, you may occasionally get questions from VISTA members and leaders, so you want to be well informed.
If you're a new VISTA sponsor, it can be overwhelming to figure out what you need to know, where to find information, and who to reach out to for help. So we'll go through a few key resources for you, and we'll refer to these resources throughout today's presentation. As a result of our presentation, we want to be sure that everyone on today's webinar will learn a core set of terms for VISTA project management. This first graphic shows where to find information on a variety of topics. The resources on this screen will connect you to websites and resources such as the CNCS website, which connects you to various things, including publications. You should also create a VISTA Campus account if you haven't done so already, and review the sponsor handbook and check out other VISTA sponsor and supervisor information that is available there. eGrants is also a valuable resource and contains information about your application, VISTA assignment descriptions, reporting, and other topics. The resources on the screen now will connect you to people and regulations as you seek support and guidance. The National Service Hotline is who you contact with eGrants issues, questions about VISTA member pay and relocation benefits, and cost share billing. You can contact your CNCF state or regional office for information about project compliance, issues with VISTA members, changing and improving VADs, and anything else project related. It's important for you to know what resources are available to you and where they are so that you can also obtain the support you need in your VISTA project. These links and more are available in your VISTA Sponsor Resource Guide. As a reminder, you can find a link to that resource guide in the chat panel. I want to underscore the importance of establishing communications expectations with your staff, VISTA members, sub-site staff, and CNCF. One way to avoid unforeseen issues and complications during the VISTA year is with a solid communication plan. In this task, your top resource and regular point of contact will be your CNCF state or regional office. We'll talk more a little bit later about the role of the state or regional office and its importance to you. When VISTA members and supervisors have questions or concerns, they'll likely come to you first as the VISTA sponsor representative. Depending on how your project is structured, it might be the case that you're the main point of contact for members and supervisors. For questions relating to benefits, you can direct your VISTA member to the VISTA Member Support Unit, also known as VMSU, as well as resources on the VISTA campus, such as the benefits section of the VISTA Member Handbook. If it's a question that you're not able to address, reach out to your CNCF state or regional office, who has access to other parts of CNCF in the event that they need additional input. Technical assistance and support from the CNCF state or regional office can take many forms. For example, they can provide technical support for things like eGrants, member recruitment, training, reporting, VADs, and other things that you're responsible for. We can also offer support for you with regard to member management, supervision, and challenges. And we'll notify you of any compliance issues and schedule time to monitor your project to make sure you're in compliance. In addition to the resources included on the VISTA Sponsor Resource Guide, we want to highlight some key contacts and information that we want to be sure you know about. Again, on the top of the list is your CNCF state or regional office. They're there to help ensure that you have the tools, resources, and knowledge you need to lead a successful VISTA project. The VISTA Sponsor Outreach and Recruitment page referenced here should be one of the first places you go because it contains information about recruitment, marketing, fact sheets, and so much more. Much of the material available on this page is print ready, so be sure to check it out. Finally, the VISTA campus is filled with helpful tools and resources. You can find the member and sponsor handbook here, as well as a variety of courses to help you throughout the life cycle of your project. There's also the supervisor forum we mentioned, where you can have a dialogue with other supervisors from around the country. Many of the resources highlighted on the resource guide point you to the VISTA campus. Be sure to create a supervisor account on the VISTA campus, otherwise you won't be able to access everything referenced in the sponsor resource guide. The National Service Hotline offers support to you as well as your members and supervisors. They can help with common eGrants questions, reset passwords, etc., but can also escalate calls to the eGrants help desk. Be sure to keep the eGrants support link handy and remember that you can also call the National Service Hotline. The National Service Hotline will also escalate calls to the VISTA Member Support Unit, or the VMSU. The VMSU can troubleshoot member issues related to the living allowance or relocation payment issues and can answer questions about benefits such as the education award. And check out this last website for gears and materials, particularly recruiting materials. It's pubs.nationalservice.gov, and you can find things like posters and brochures. These resources are all free, and they may prove very useful to assist you in recruiting, talking about the VISTA program, and more. Finally, since you may get some questions from VISTA members, or you may want to know about it yourself, VISTA members who successfully complete all of their pre-work and submit their oath form correctly receive an email within their first couple weeks of service. This email contains instructions on how to order specific free gear that we provide them, which includes a VISTA polo shirt, a t-shirt, a lapel pin, tote bag, journal, and water bottle. These items are restricted to VISTA members only, and they must be ordered by the members themselves using the instructions they're sent. However, there's lots of other materials and resources that you as a sponsor can order from the pubs.nationalservice.gov website.
In addition to the resources that we have and provide, there are additional resources that you may want to know about or that you've already heard about. So you can see the question on the screen is, what additional resource do you or your VISTA project use to manage your VISTA project? It could be a link to a general website that you go to for recruitment assistance, or maybe it's the name of an organization that has accessible information. It might even be a document that you created outlining how to utilize people and volunteers as a resource. Go ahead and post your comments in the chat panel, because one of the greatest things about staying together and connecting with each other virtually and in person is that you are all also a resource for each other. So some of the ideas that you have can help each other support the work that you're doing as well. So I see a couple of comments. Someone uses the website monday.com. I actually don't know about it, but I have a sneaking suspicion that I should check it out before Monday. Haha, that was kind of corny. But I should actually check it out. Remind our state office. Yes, your CNCS state and regional office is an amazing resource. I would say don't overwhelm them with every single question, but know that you can get a lot of your questions answered, as Emily said, on the VISTA campus through other things, but certainly please make sure you know who your CNCS state office or regional office is, and make sure you know that they are a resource for you. If you need them for challenges, positive things, that's a great thing. So keep those comments coming. And keep in mind, if you're a very, very, very new project and just started, you may not know yet of any other resources that exist or that could benefit your project. Don't worry about that. You'll discover more resources as you get further into your role and hear more from your CNCS state or regional office as you take time to explore the VISTA campus. And we also will talk a little bit later about a monthly webinar series that we offer as well for additional support. So for those of you that completed it, during VISTA 101, you would have already learned about AmeriCorps VISTA and VISTA, its predecessor, its mission to empower communities to find solutions to eliminating poverty, and how VISTA members build capacity. Again, if you have not yet completed those courses, we recommend you do so fairly soon and refer to the VISTA Sponsor Resource Guide for additional resources. So now let's take a minute to discuss a few key principles that are central to the VISTA program. The Corporation for National and Community Service improves lives, strengthens communities, and fosters civic engagement through service and volunteering. As the nation's largest grant maker in support of service and volunteering, CNCS engages Americans of all ages and backgrounds in service to their communities every year through Senior Corps, AmeriCorps, and other programs. As you probably know, CNCS was created in 1993, and it engages more than 5 million Americans every year in improving communities through service. CNCS supports service at national, state, and local levels with a variety of service opportunities. I'll turn it over to Emily now to dive a little bit deeper into the work that CNCS does by discussing CNCS's program areas.
Thanks, Eric. Under the broad mission of CNCS, there are two main programming areas: Senior Corps and AmeriCorps. Senior Corps was created in 1965 and includes 3 different programs to engage and serve senior adults in the U.S. Individuals who are 55 and older can join the RSVP, Retired Senior Volunteer Program, the Foster Grandparent Program, or the Senior Companion Program. AmeriCorps was created in 1994, and over 1 million members have contributed over 1 billion hours of service across America since then. As you can see, there are 3 different AmeriCorps programs: AmeriCorps State and National, AmeriCorps NCCC, and AmeriCorps VISTA, the program that your project falls under. CNCF state and regional offices administer VISTA and Senior Corps programs with your support. In Rhode Island, one of the states that I manage VISTA projects in, for example, the CNCF office oversees 400 AmeriCorps members, which includes about 80 VISTA members who are working on 16 different projects just within the small state of Rhode Island. Our office also oversees 10 different Senior Corps programs that manage about 2,600 Senior Corps volunteers in Rhode Island. And this is just one of many examples of how CNCF state and regional offices and programs are interconnected. Next, we'll turn our attention to the history of VISTA.
The VISTA program has a very rich history. In 1964, President Lyndon B. Johnson declared a war on poverty and signed the Economic Opportunity Act. The act created Volunteers in Service to America, which we know as VISTA, and other programs to combat poverty. VISTA is authorized under the Domestic Volunteer Service Act of 1973 as amended. The DVSA is a statute, and statutes define the legal boundaries within which the VISTA program may operate. In 1993, with President Bill Clinton's signing of the National and Community Service Trust Act, both CNCS and the AmeriCorps programs were established. The National Community Service Trust Act also merged several national service programs, including VISTA, to be part of AmeriCorps. And then the 2009 Edward M. Kennedy Serve America Act reauthorized and expanded CNCS's national service programs. Your specific VISTA projects were selected because they demonstrate a substantial connection to VISTA's mission, objectives, and principles. As you know, VISTA's mission is to strengthen organizations that alleviate poverty through volunteering and the mobilization of resources. VISTA is the only AmeriCorps program focused exclusively on fighting poverty. VISTA also has 3 specific objectives of the program: to strengthen local agencies and organizations to carry out the purpose of the program, to encourage volunteer service at the local level, to generate the commitment of private sector resources. As you can see, VISTA's objectives directly support building capacity. Finally, here are the 4 core principles that shape everything AmeriCorps VISTA does: anti-poverty focus, community empowerment, capacity building, sustainable solutions. And remember, your VISTA projects were selected because they demonstrate a really strong connection to VISTA's mission, objectives, and core principles. So now that you know the core mission and principles of VISTA, let's review a couple of key terms and definitions. This information is based on VISTA's authorizing legislation, and it's important to understand how each role is identified. When we talk about a project or a VISTA project, we mean a set of VISTA activities operated and overseen by a sponsor. The terms sponsor, project sponsor, VISTA sponsor, or VISTA project sponsor refer to a public agency or private nonprofit organization that receives assistance and is responsible for operating and overseeing a VISTA project. A public agency may be a federal, state, local, or tribal government. The terms project director or VISTA project director mean a staff person of the sponsor who has been assigned by the sponsor the overall responsibility for the management of the VISTA project. Project directors are responsible for executing all aspects of the project as outlined by the sponsor. A supervisor is an individual who directly supervises a VISTA member. This can be at the project level or at the site or subrecipient level. Project sponsors are responsible for ensuring that all supervisors of VISTA members are trained, and it's important to note that some project directors are also VISTA supervisors. And then, of course, the CNCS state or regional office is one of several offices representing all 50 states, the District of Columbia, and U.S. territories. Some offices are responsible for multiple states and regions. These offices are responsible for monitoring and supporting VISTA projects, officially accepting candidates into federal national service, and more. Next, Emily is going to talk about how CNCS state and regional office staff can help you with outreach, program development, technical assistance, monitoring, and evaluation, all in support of your VISTA project.
Thanks, Eric. Hopefully by now you've had some conversations with your CNCS state or regional office, and you know who your program officer or portfolio manager is. Let's do a quick check to see who you're working with. Please type the name of your CNCS program officer or portfolio manager, your main point of contact, into the chat feature, and remember to send that message out to all panelists and attendees. Great, so we're starting to get some responses in, and I'm seeing some names that I recognize, which is great. And it looks like some people aren't sure, and that's okay too. If you don't know, there are some states that are part of going through our transition to a regional office now, so it could be that you'll be introduced to a new person here shortly. In addition to contacting your program officer or portfolio manager directly, you're also able to send an email to the entire CNCS state or regional office by using the two-letter state abbreviation followed by @cns.gov. For example, Texas would be tx@cns.gov. So for those of you that aren't sure who your point of contact is, just start with a state that you're located in and send off an email, and that would be a good way to find a point of contact. As we said at the beginning, we know a bunch of folks on today's webinar are just getting started, so you may not have had a chance to connect with that state or regional office team just yet. As we discussed earlier, the state and regional offices manage AmeriCorps VISTA and Senior Corps programming for their state and regions. AmeriCorps state grants are managed by a separate entity known as a state commission. For VISTA projects, the CNCS state and regional office staff help develop and then manage and monitor VISTA projects throughout their state and often in other states for large and national projects throughout their life cycle. They're there to help support you in managing your project and your VISTA members. They're available to assist with member emergencies, challenging situations, and policy questions. They can also support you by connecting you to resources and training materials for you and your members. One important note here, the CNCS state or regional office also plays an important role in approving candidates for VISTA service and removing members from service. As a reminder, only CNCS can approve members for service. The state or regional office carefully reviews all applicants that you recommend for VISTA service to ensure they're a good fit for the program. Likewise, CNCS alone has the authority to remove a member from service. This is one of the reasons why it's critically important for you to update your state or regional office early and often when it comes to member issues. We'll talk more about the importance of documenting member performance and actions later. Your VISTA members are critical and necessary for the success of your VISTA program. As you know, VISTA service is a 12-month full-time, 35 to 40 hours a week commitment where VISTA members provide service to build capacity and sustainability with programs that work to alleviate poverty. VISTAs are members. They are not employees, interns, or volunteers of or with the sponsoring organization. VISTAs serve at their sponsoring agency. They do not work there. And in return, VISTAs receive a modest living allowance that aligns with the community that they are serving. Let's take a look at a few more important topics for your members and those of us who support them. Members often have questions on a variety of topics, and the topic of their questions often depends on how far into their service term they are. VISTA questions tend to fall under one of these categories: benefits, forms, end of service benefits, travel, and service letters. Members who are about to start their service might have more questions about the amount of their living allowance, as well as when and how it's paid. Don't forget to fully explain member benefits and address some of these topics while interviewing those highly qualified candidates. For example, some benefits, such as living allowance, are available to all VISTA members. Other benefits, such as relocation assistance and child care, are only available to some VISTA members and require that the VISTA member take an action in order to make use of the benefit.
As part of their required onboarding forms and coursework, you want to make sure that all members carefully and correctly complete their W-4 and direct deposit information. Members should keep their direct deposit information updated, since some of them might be relocating and moving, and of course then they would change their banks if they choose to, and because they want to make sure that they receive their living allowance and any approved travel, for example relocation, or emergency reimbursements. And remember that VISTA sponsors are required to reimburse members for any service-related travel that is required of them. For example, if the VISTA assignment description, or VAD, outlined that the VISTA member will be traveling to community meetings and setting up partnerships, sponsors must reimburse members at the rate your organization uses for that service-related travel reimbursement. In addition to the required onboarding forms, VISTA candidates are required to accept the terms and conditions of VISTA service before they can start. This is an online course, takes about 30 to 40 minutes, it's pretty quick, and they can take it on the VISTA campus. That's the one and only place it's located. Since sponsors should understand these topics to best assist their members, we'll very briefly walk through a few of the important topics for members so that you're aware of what they are. Newer members may have questions about how to request federal forbearance on their education loans. They may also inquire about how the end-of-service cash stipend differs from the Siegel AmeriCorps Education Award, or how the Education Award can even be used. One important, really fine-tuned point that I want to mention is to distinguish the living allowance that they receive every 2 weeks from the stipend. We want to try to use correct lingo in making sure that the living allowance is the money that they receive every 2 weeks. The stipend refers to the cash stipend, which is an end-of-service benefit that comes after they finish their year of service. Members late in their service may need additional information on how things like non-competitive eligibility, or NCE, works, or when they'll be able to access their verification of service letter in my.americorps.gov. We're not going to go into detail about each of these because there's a lot more information in detail on the VISTA campus in the benefits section. But this screen does show numerous topics of interest to VISTA members. It is ultimately the VISTA members' responsibility to understand the details around these topics, including knowing where to find the benefits and details, which benefits may apply to them, and knowing what action they must take to utilize their benefits. But again, it is important for you to know at least some of the details around the benefits so you can best support your VISTA members and inform candidates during recruitment. You can find much more details about these on the VISTA campus website. And speaking of websites and links, here are some additional resources for these types of questions. We just mentioned the VISTA Campus Benefits Hub, great place to go for any first one-stop questions you have about member benefits. Next, we mentioned the all-important VISTA Member Handbook that contains a lot of information and guidance regarding these topics, some benefits, as well as the rules and regulations of VISTA service. You'll want to be sure to reference that, as well as the VISTA Sponsor Handbook and the resource guide for links to more detailed guidance. And then, of course, if VISTA members can't find information on the campus or they still have questions after doing their own research, they can call the VMSU, the VISTA Member Support Unit, for benefits questions that they can't find elsewhere. So before we continue, we'll stop here just very briefly to see if there's any quick questions that come up in the chat panel. We know that we've covered quite a bit of information. We have a little bit more to go, but we figured this is a good stop to quickly pause in terms of how we can continue with the presentation. So Emily, one question that came in earlier that I can't find it, but I do remember what the question was related to during the transition of state offices into regional offices. I know there's a lot of work being done by you and a lot of your colleagues. Is there any additional support that you're offering sponsors, or more specifically the question was asking, is there anything that sponsors should know other than staying in touch with their state and regional office point of contact?
Yeah, I think staying in touch with their point of contact is the best advice. Acknowledging that during this transition, that person might be changing or that person might not be on board yet. In which case, emailing that state office general box is going to be key, because there will always be somebody monitoring that. Several somebody's monitoring those state email boxes. So even if you're not sure if you're part of a region that's in the middle of a transition from state to regional office right now, those state email boxes are going to be key for communication.
Great, thank you. Yeah, communication is definitely key during this time frame. We want to make sure that we're in touch with our VISTA projects and they're in touch with their CNCF state and regional office as much as possible. And there was another question that came in earlier that I'll answer relating to benefits. As we showed the slide that talked about a lot of the benefits that VISTA members have and are available to seek out, there was a question about if sponsors could supplement benefits in certain ways. So without going into a lot of detail, I'll quickly say the answer is yes and no. There are certain things you could do if you're interested in supplementing the benefits. For example, you're not allowed to supplement their living allowance, but what some sponsors do is they'll provide some kind of a housing allowance where they will either provide money directly to the VISTA member's landlord, because they're not allowed to give money directly to the VISTA member, or if you're a site that happens to be on a college campus or somewhere that has housing available, some sites are able to offer a VISTA member discounted or free housing. The last comment I'll mention on this is one of the big questions we get around benefits is oftentimes around special things like gift cards and special gifts like that. So there are parameters around that, and the short answer is you are permitted to give some gifts on rare occasions. For example, if it's the holidays and you're giving out a $10 gift card, as long as it goes to all the VISTAs and not just one, and as long as it's not on a regular basis. This should not be something that you're trying to supplement their income in discrete ways, but rare occurrences of things like that could be permissible. I would recommend, if there's anything that you have questions about, as Emily said, please do stay in touch with your CNCS state or regional office for specific details. And a related question I see just came in is, can we give public transit passes? Yes, that's a thing that several projects do, especially if their VISTA members don't have a car and need to use public transit to go to site visits or meetings with community partners. That is something, but again, you should be in touch with your state and regional office just to make sure that there's not any other fine-tuned details that you'll want to know before you proceed with any benefits like that. Emily, did you have anything else you wanted to add to the benefits conversation?
No, that sounds great. If folks are thinking creatively about other benefits, that's a conversation that I'd welcome as a portfolio manager, and I'm sure my colleagues in the other state and regional offices would as well.
Thank you all for those questions. I see there's one or two other questions that are in here. We're going to get to more questions at the end, but right now we're going to continue, and we'll review our agenda to see what we've covered and what's next in our presentation. So far today, we've looked at where to start as a new project sponsor, the origins of the VISTA program and big picture framework, and some of the important details about the member positions. Our next section will focus on some of the core responsibilities that VISTA sponsors have. As a VISTA sponsor, you've joined sponsors from all across the nation in the mission of fighting poverty in your community. Your role is important to the success of the project, the members, and ultimately the impact of the poverty community. Every VISTA project is accountable for the responsibilities that we will outline, but each sponsor may assign these responsibilities as appropriate within the organization and the VISTA project. And a final reminder that it is the sponsor's responsibility to ensure that all subsites, if you're an intermediary, are in compliance with VISTA policies and procedures.
So we'll take a closer look at some of the core responsibilities related to member management now. A successful VISTA project starts off with a strong and effective recruitment plan. At a minimum, this includes creating a solid and detailed VISTA assignment description, also known as a VAD, with tasks that are appropriate to VISTA service and will guide the member throughout the year. Make sure your VADs do not have any mention of direct service and that the member activities focus on building capacity of the VISTA project. You also need to draft a catchy and honest opportunity listing to announce your position and attract top quality candidates. You can create these in eGrants, and they'll appear in the MyAmericorps portal. So make sure the details of your opportunity listings align with the actual items in your VAD so that potential applicants understand what they would be doing. You'll recruit, screen, interview, and recommend the best applicant for service in your project. And provide an in-depth on-site orientation and training to all incoming VISTA members at the beginning of their service. This should include the VISTA member orientation requirements, as well as fingerprinting and the respective deadline. Remember that all new VISTA members must start service in conjunction with a VISTA member orientation, or VMO, start date, and you can get these possible start dates from your state or regional office. And all the details that we send VISTA members about their VMO are on vistacampus.gov/starting-vista-service. So you can see those details there as well. The on-site orientation and training, also known as OSOT, should also include opportunities for professional development and learning. Strong VISTA sponsors do this well and find ways to integrate various aspects of the organization and the community with important things that VISTA should know, as well as with the interests and skills of the VISTA member. Here are a few more important aspects of AmeriCorps VISTA member management. It's probably no surprise that the best projects offer day-to-day supervision and support of their members. This includes confirming that members have the space, supplies, and equipment necessary to carry out their service, setting up regularly scheduled, rarely missed meetings with your members to maintain effective communication, providing reasonable accommodations to members who request them based on differing abilities, and ensuring that the members' activities are in line with their VADs. Even the best run projects will have member issues bubble up, so don't be disappointed if things get a little tricky. The important thing is to manage those member issues appropriately. This means addressing issues as they arise, keeping your state or regional office informed early of issues, documenting all discussions, tracking performance, and keeping on top of the situation. Remember, only CNCF may remove members from your project, and only CNCF may terminate members. So your documentation of member issues and discussing them with the state or regional office is very important. Another aspect of member management is timekeeping. You'll need to develop a system to track your VISTA members' use of personal and medical leave, because it is your responsibility to monitor and manage the use of the VISTA members' leave time. Remember that you can visit the VISTA member handbook for rules regarding when it's permissible for VISTA members to use their leave. Each VISTA member receives 10 personal and 10 medical days. And in addition, VISTA members are entitled to most holidays observed by your organization. But seasonal breaks, for example, being off for an extended period of time, such as a whole week during the winter holidays, or really more than 2 consecutive days, should be discussed with your state or regional office. Data management. You'll want to have your members track what they accomplish. This will help ensure that you have accurate data when it comes time to report on performance measure targets. Consider creating a procedure manual or resource to keep track of the steps that you or your VISTA members take to develop and send out communications, update an online website or flyer, and more. These elements are part of sustainability as you and your VISTA members identify things that you can do to keep the project going well into the future. Remember, the VISTA Sponsor Resource Guide is a comprehensive list of resources to help you successfully manage members and includes a lot more detail on all of these points. In addition to the topics mentioned earlier related to performance and member management, the following activities are allowed but must be approved in advance. With prior approval by the sponsor and the state or regional office, AmeriCorps VISTA members are allowed to teleserve, serve at a location other than their project site for a limited duration. They may also hold outside employment or attend educational courses. However, even though these activities are allowed, the VISTA member must request this through the project director and then have it approved through the state or regional office. The CNCF state or regional office is always thinking about what's best for your project and has the ability to deny requests that may interfere with a VISTA member's service or interfere with a project. To be safe, you should consult with your CNCF state or regional office if any changes are made that impact or would impact the project, subsites, or members. This could mean a change with your project personnel and supervision of members, or it could mean that due to emerging community needs, a VAD must be tweaked to better support alleviating poverty in your community. Regardless, it's always a good idea to check in with your state or regional office, and the sooner they know about these shifts, the more support they'll be able to give.
Now let's take a look at some of your core responsibilities in adhering to restrictions on what can be done during VISTA service. Prior to service, VISTA members must complete the online terms and conditions course that details what's provided to and allowed by VISTA members during their service. If a member happens to violate any one of the terms or conditions, you will need to contact your CNCS state or regional office staff immediately. Different violations have different repercussions, and for the protection of the project and any other members on board, it's critical to act promptly. For criminal activity, VISTAs and VISTA sponsors must report any criminal activity that occurs while in service to their CNCS state or regional office. Under religious activity, engaging in religious instruction, conducting worship services, or engaging in any form of proselytizing during service time is prohibited. And briefly around prohibited political activity, engaging in partisan political activities while in service, for example, engaging in fundraising for a partisan political campaign at any time, or advertising oneself as a VISTA while engaging in partisan political activity are all prohibited. prohibited. The Hatch Act is a federal law that was first enacted in 1939. VISTA members are considered federal employees for a few limited purposes, including the Hatch Act. This Hatch Act does ensure that all federal employees and VISTA members do not participate in political activity that's prohibited under the Hatch Act. Keep in mind that VISTA members also cannot be involved in voter registration as part of their VISTA service. They can do it if it's not part of VISTA service, though, and it would just have to be on their own time, not in VISTA gear, and not identified or perceived to be a VISTA member. In general, VISTAs cannot engage in political activity, religious activity, lobbying, or union organizing as part of their service or while perceived to be a VISTA. On their own time, they can go to rallies or attend church services, but cannot engage in either type of activity while serving or while identifying as a VISTA. Also, the Hatch Act prohibits VISTA members from fundraising or soliciting money for a partisan political campaign at any time during their year of service, and that's prohibited whether it's during their service hours or on their own time. However, they may personally donate to a partisan political campaign. Moving on to supplanting staff, you and the VISTA project need to know that members shall not perform duties that should be done or are typically done by paid staff or contractors. This would be a huge red flag because VISTA members are placed at organizations not to take the place of staff, but to be catalysts for change by building capacity and strengthening organizations with the goal of eradicating poverty through fulfilling the activities outlined in their VISTA assignment description. Everyone hopefully is familiar with nepotism and why it's not a good thing, so we ask that you avoid the actual or appearance of favoritism in the operation of a VISTA placement. A VISTA member cannot be placed or assigned to a VISTA project site if the VISTA member is in the immediate family or close relative of a project site staff member or vice versa. And then in terms of direct service, while direct service is not a prohibited activity in the legal sense, VISTA should not directly serve project beneficiaries, such as helping clients fill out disability forms, tutoring children, or working at the counter of a food pantry. However, VISTAs can take on such tasks when it is part of a larger project, such as spending a period of time at the beginning teaching a financial literacy course that they developed, just so they can test the curriculum and test the materials. However, in the long term, the VISTA member would then be training staff or recruiting community volunteers to continue with the actual teaching of the financial literacy course. We know this can be sometimes a little bit confusing, so if you'd like more information or a full description of prohibited activities, please visit Chapter 15, that's Chapter 1.5, of the VISTA Member Handbook located on the VISTA campus. Looking at core responsibilities for managing your VISTA project, it's important to note that all sponsors must follow the requirements and policies set forth in the Memorandum of Agreement. Your organization has entered into a legal agreement with CNCS. Also, all projects must have an anti-poverty focus. That means that all project activities, from the application to the VISTA assignment description, should tie back to alleviating poverty in your community. And if your project is already underway, you might be responsible for the project's continuation. So be sure, if this applies to you, make sure that you submit a continuation application 90 days before expiration of the Memorandum of Agreement. So here's another quick chat activity with everyone. Take a minute to type your answer in the chat panel. What is your project start date? I'm hoping that most of you probably have an idea of what that is. If not, you might want to check with your project director, but go ahead and type in your project start date in the chat. We know many of you probably started relatively recently in the past month or two. It's possible that some people maybe started 6 months or a year ago, but I see, I'm assuming this is all this year. Some people started last week. Congratulations, your first full week is done, woohoo! Some people are listing May 11th, June 1st, so it looks like some people perhaps haven't yet started, but they're joining this webinar to really understand how to get started effectively. A few more people started in March, so this is a very new group, which is exciting. We do these webinars because we think it'll help you get your bearings with the program. And of course, when we talk about the question that we asked earlier about the name of your program officer or portfolio manager, we know that especially if you're new, you may not exactly know who that person is, and that's okay. You want to make sure that you do find out in the near future so that if you do have any questions about the VISTA program or your responsibilities as a VISTA project, that you make sure you understand who your CNCS state program officer is or your regional office portfolio manager is.
So if your VISTA project operates at more than one location or service site, you are also required to have a memorandum of understanding with each of your sub-sites. So this is for multi-site sponsors. You're required to encourage partnership development, as well as accomplish certain cost share tasks, depending on your agreement with CNCS. If you have questions about your agreement with CNCS, access the agreement in eGrants or talk with your state or regional office. Well, you're required to submit various reports, including reporting on your performance measures. It's good to know that everyone is responsible for reporting in some way, not just multi-site sponsors. So let's spend a little more time talking about reporting requirements. These are the core responsibilities for reporting. Each VISTA project submits a set of reports to help CNCS review project progress. The information you provide in these reports demonstrates your project's impact, demonstrates resource management, and allows us to provide you with better technical assistance. Since there are important things to know, Eric and I will walk through a variety of required reports. As we start, it's good to know that your state or regional office will provide all of the deadlines for you, and you'll be able to find instructions in the sponsor resource guide.
In terms of the main reports required from VISTA sponsors, all projects are required to submit a sponsor verification form, or SVF, VISTA project progress reports, which we call PPR, VISTA progress report supplement, VPRS, and future plans forms, FPF. Only projects that have a program or support grant have to submit a federal financial report, FFR. If you do have any questions about the type of grant you have with CNCS, you can access your agreement in your eGrants account or talk to your CNCS state or regional office. First, every 2 weeks, you or whoever is designated at your organization as a VISTA supervisor or designee will need to submit a sponsor verification form. This helps CNCS track which members are still actively serving at your project so we can prevent member overpayment and know where the members are. This information also ties in directly to VISTA member payroll for standard VISTA projects, so it is critically important. Please make sure you set reminders for this report. You should get an email reminder, but it's still a good idea to set a reminder. And if you're going to be out of the office, make sure you designate and determine who's going to submit this report on your behalf, because this function must be completed by a staff member. You cannot delegate it to another AmeriCorps member, an intern, nor a volunteer. Also, you are required to submit project progress reports, or PPRs. For the first year of a project, typically these are done on a quarterly basis. These reports should build on each other, and you'll want to check with your CNCS state or regional office staff and in your eGrants account for more details on when they're due, depending on your project year, because after your second year, some project progress reports are only due semi-annually. That transition is at the discretion of your CNCS state or regional office, so be sure to communicate with them. You're also required to submit project progress reports. Oh, I just said that. As you think about VISTA reports, think about the many benefit your organization of documenting your progress. Keep track of lots of details and striving for sustainability of many of your programs and activities. We know that reporting may not sound exciting, but you should be excited to talk about what your VISTA members and VISTA project have completed and how you can grow and improve upon building capacity and eliminating poverty in your community. The next report I will mention is the VISTA Progress Report Supplement, or VPRS. This is an annual report and tracks demographic information for your project. This report is typically due late in the calendar year and is based on our agency's fiscal year, October 1st of one year through September 30th of the next. This means that you will likely have to track information with your VISTA members on a monthly basis so that you can accurately submit this report. You can find instructions on how to complete this report in the VISTA Sponsor Resource Guide. You also must complete a Future Plans Form, FPF, for every member at the end of their term of service. The Future Plans Form is unlocked for the member in their my.americorps.gov account 90 days prior to their end of service. The VISTA member completes Part A, which is the first part, before they end service. Then you, their direct supervisor, completes Part B, which evaluates the VISTA member's service. For that reason, we strongly recommend that you coordinate with the member's supervisor if you're not directly supervising this individual. The VISTA member then has the opportunity to review your comments, and for that reason, we recommend that you host an exit interview so that the VISTA member is aware of what you are entering for their review. Once those two sections are complete, It then comes to the CNCS state or regional office for review. And then in terms of the Federal Financial Report, or FFR, that we briefly mentioned, this specifically is for program and support grants, and if you have one of those, there are additional reporting requirements such as the FFR. Make sure that you specifically connect with your CNCS state or regional office for more information on what's required of your specific grant. And be sure to loop in the fiscal staff at your organization as appropriate. If you do not have a program or support grant, you do not have to worry about this report. Finally, if you have a cost share agreement, cost share invoices are payable upon receipt. If you're a newer project, you probably don't have that. This is typically for projects who have been in place for at least a year. But if you do have a cost share agreement, you will receive them either on a biweekly or a monthly basis in e-grants, depending on your agreement.
So I'd like to share a few key tips about reports and forms. First, we recommend that you complete these forms early in the process. It can help you manage member recruitment and tie them directly to member and alumni benefits, specifically accessing education awards. This is especially true for the future plan form. If a member wants to re-enroll or extend their service, then you should document how they successfully supported their project and accomplished activities on their VAD and rate them accordingly. This will help the CNCS state or regional office evaluate your and their requests and compare it to our budget. If a member needs to leave their service early or terminate their service, the state or regional office can unlock the future plan form. However, the request to release this form should not be the state or regional office's first notification that the member will be terminating their service. Please bring the state or regional office into the conversation early so that we can help you troubleshoot any potential issues. I know that this is a lot of information to absorb, so again, if you have any questions at all, please reach out to us in the state and regional offices. We are here to help. You've heard us talk a lot about working with your state or regional office quite a bit already. Another core responsibility of yours is to share the good, the bad, and the ugly with us. By communicating openly and early, you position your state or
Emily,
regional office.
this is Jeff from LSI. Your audio is breaking up.
Okay. I'll start again. So we've talked a lot about the state or regional office, and one of your responsibilities is to share the good, the bad, and the ugly with them. By communicating openly and early, you position us to best support you. So there are some things that the state or regional office needs to hear about promptly. I'm going to hand it off to Eric.
Thank you, Kim. Thank you, Emily. And as Emily said, we do want to reiterate that your CNCS state or regional office is here to support you, and they want to make sure that they're up to date on your project status in order to do that effectively. So please be sure to communicate with them about proposed changes to your project goals and your member activities. For example, if you have any requested changes or alterations to your VISTA assignment descriptions, as well as any shifts or changes in staff, especially with regards to changes in terms of VISTA supervision or your organizational status. Be sure to stay in touch with your CNCS state or regional office. And then, of course, you'll also want to share information about your VISTA project with your communities and your networks. Acknowledge the resources that you receive by identifying AmeriCorps VISTA members as such and listing AmeriCorps VISTA as a funder of your organization. You will want to list AmeriCorps VISTA in your materials, on your websites, and mention the program in verbal conversations about your project. Keep your communities and networks in the loop about your VISTA project to both spread the word on the capacity you're building, as well as to cultivate engagement and promote opportunities to serve within your organization. We'll now go ahead and shift our attention to your core responsibilities for regulatory compliance. As a VISTA sponsor, it is your responsibility to comply with all regulations and requirements of the VISTA program. CNCS staff conduct monitoring and compliance activities throughout the life of your project. And since AmeriCorps VISTA is a federal program, and like anything that's supported by taxpayer funds, we must ensure that the program is well run, doing what it's supposed to, and spending money wisely. CNCS staff ensure compliance by reviewing VADs to make sure that they are appropriate for VISTA service and they are free from non-approved activities. CNCS staff may also conduct site visits and compliance monitoring visits as appropriate. Site visits generally are conducted by CNCS staff. Occasionally headquarters and personnel will attend as well, and they may be informational in nature in order to provide technical assistance, or they might be just for general project monitoring. Compliance monitoring visits are always scheduled in advance and are very structured. They'll probably include interviews with project staff, VISTA members, advisory council members, and community members or beneficiaries. Compliance monitoring visits will also include a review of documentation and procedures, and a letter outlining conclusions and needed corrected actions is shared after the visit. CNCS does conduct these visits to make sure that grantees are following the rules for AmeriCorps member and grant management, and to provide support to VISTA sponsoring organizations. You will see that VISTA members also have a role when it comes to regulatory compliance. It's important to know that CNCS instructs VISTA members who feel that they've been asked to do things that are not appropriate for their service to first talk about it with their supervisor. From there, they can talk with the CNCS state or regional office. And then if the issue is not resolved, or if they want to remain anonymous, they do have the ability to directly contact the CNCS Office of Inspector General, whose responsibility is to prevent fraud, waste, and abuse. If a VISTA member believes that they have been subject to illegal discrimination related to their VISTA service, they should immediately contact the CNCS Equal Opportunity Program, which will also be covered a little bit later. Remember, please report any concerns to your CNCS state or regional office because they are there to help develop, manage, and monitor VISTA projects, support you in managing your VISTA project and your VISTA members, assist with member emergencies, challenging situations, and questions of policy, and support you by connecting you to additional resources. And we talked a little bit earlier about prohibited activities, but let's review a few important points. VISTA members should focus on what's outlined in the VISTA assignment description, which really should tie directly back to the overall project plan that was approved by CNCS. Your VISTA member's service should be to build capacity, not to undertake activities that can be construed as full-time direct service. If VISTA members are being asked to take over the work of staff, such as someone who left the organization, again, that's replacing or supplanting staff, and that is not allowed. Or, if a VISTA member is mostly doing administrative support for someone else, that's also not appropriate work for a VISTA member. We've covered a lot today, and you can see on the agenda, we've looked at the big picture of national service, we walked through some of the core responsibilities that you have as a VISTA sponsor, and next we'll segue into some keys to success. We want to ensure that you get off on the right foot, so we're going to share some member and project management keys to success that we've developed over the years. By now, it should be absolutely no surprise that ongoing communication with your CNCS state or regional office is critical. Make sure that they're aware of any challenges, but also some of the positives that are going on with your VISTA project. In terms of recruitment, be sure to start early and be proactive. Take time to locate members that are a good fit, know the VISTA member benefits, understand what it means to live on the living allowance, and invest time drafting compelling opportunity listings to hook the right candidate. Always give yourself extra time because sometimes recruitment has its challenges, so be sure to build that into your plan. You also want to make sure that you offer professional development and support through trainings and other opportunities, as well as developing a strong on-site orientation and training. Many of you want to recruit members and retain them throughout their year of service, and let me tell you, developing a successful and effective on-site orientation and training can be the make or break deal for a VISTA member. This is an essential step for creating and developing a strong onboarding for your VISTA. And then speaking of onboarding and ongoing support, for the supervision of VISTA members, it's important to address issues early on. Don't let them wait too late. Be sure to track their time and attendance, make sure you avoid direct service and prohibited activities, and work with your CNCS state or regional office if there's any requests by the VISTA member for outside employment, teleservice, or direct service. If you happen to have a VISTA leader, utilize them wisely and understand their role, that this person is not a supervisor, but they are there to train, support, and guide your VISTA members. Also, strongly encourage you to schedule and maintain regular weekly, or if not, bi-weekly meetings with your VISTA members. And one suggestion is the 10-10-10 method, giving the first 10 minutes for your VISTA member to talk about what they've done and ask any questions. The next 10 minutes focused on you, responding to their questions and giving them feedback. And the final 10 minutes for clarification, questions, or professional development. And also think carefully about the close of service. We know that that's at the end of their year, but that'll come quickly. So be sure that you help prepare members for their next step once service is complete. This not only helps them transition out of service, but it also helps you start planning for the next VISTA member and transitioning activities to another VISTA member. And ultimately, when your VISTA project is almost near completion, it helps you think about the organization towards sustainability of your VISTA project. Here are some successful tips for project management. Again, at the top of the list, no surprise, communication with your CNCS state or regional office. And also be sure to operate your projects in accordance with applicable laws, regulations, policies, certifications, and assurances, with best efforts to accomplish the goals set out for the AmeriCorps VISTA members in the project application, and in consultation with and involving the people of the communities to be served in the planning, the development, and the implementation of the project. Like all federal agencies, CNCS has an Inspector General whose office is responsible for preventing and detecting fraud, waste, and abuse. If you encounter any issues with your project, address them at the sponsor level and, if necessary, with your CNCS state or regional office. If the issues are not resolved, or if you want to remain anonymous, again, you can contact the CNCS Office of Inspector General. The Office of Inspector General takes all allegations seriously and conducts thorough investigations to ensure compliance with federal regulations and the terms of the VISTA program. VISTA members are protected by VISTA and CNCS from being subjected to discrimination or harassment. You, as a project sponsor and supervisor, also have an obligation to make sure that you do not subject anyone to discrimination or harassment. This applies to everyone you come in contact with, including VISTA members, clients, volunteers, and employees at your service site. The Equal Opportunity Office at CNCS is responsible for and charged with reviewing and processing discrimination complaints filed by CNCS service members, including VISTA members. And with that, I'll pass it over to Emily to cover important next steps as you continue through your VISTA sponsor orientation and work to create and maintain a well-run VISTA program.
Thanks, Eric. I'll see if my phone line is going to hang in there. So we hope today's presentation has given you a good sense of the role of the VISTA sponsor and a sense of where to go to learn more. So let's review some next steps as we start to wrap up today. Following this webinar, please email your state or regional office that you completed this session. They'll be able to answer any project-specific questions you have and can review next steps with you as you continue to learn more about VISTA, your project, and your roles and responsibilities. If you're a sub-site supervisor, you'll receive project-specific training from your project director. And remember that this webinar is just one part of the entire VISTA sponsor orientation. Make sure you go back to the VISTA sponsor orientation section of the VISTA campus and look at the orientation checklist to complete the remaining items. As you prepare to manage a VISTA project, take time to review the resources that have already been shared with you and become familiar with the VISTA campus. You'll find many helpful resources there, including discussion forums in the Supervisor Cafe. You'll be able to share ideas and resources, answer each other's questions, and more. And finally, be sure to pursue other training as directed by the VISTA program and your state or regional office. The work you do is important, and we want you to be successful in managing your VISTA members and your VISTA project.